quarterbacks have essentially mastered this game. That's what it says on TV when I watch you. Does it feel like that to some degree? It's easier now.
I don't know if it feels that way, but it is crazy the number of points that are being scored all around the league, the amount of offense that's being played at a high level. We've had a pretty good stretch. You mentioned going back to last year, finishing the second half of the season, and this year, decent start, a lot better than the 0-4 last year.
Yeah.
Here sitting at 2-2 after the first quarter, but I don't know that it's ever easy, but it's certainly we've been in a pretty good stretch here the last 10-12 games.
A lot of people have talked about Patrick Mahomes and how he played with Alex Smith and how it was a great advantage playing with a veteran. You came into this league and Drew Brees was around for a couple of years. And it's frustrating because you were a very talented kid. You'd started 3 years at NC State. You come into the NFL and you were good enough to play, but you had kind of a conservative coach. You had Drew Brees there. But did you learn stuff from Drew in those first couple of years?
I did. I think it's tough as a competitor, and you mentioned, playing all 4 years in college. Actually, it was tough to sit. I'd never sat ever, so it was tough. But I look back and I appreciate that time with Drew. I think I learned how to have a routine, how to prepare over a 16-week season, how to do the same thing every week, whether you win a big Sunday night game or lose one. And he was very consistent, very steady. I got to see the game from the sideline, which I never had done. So I appreciate those 2 years. I do think there came a time when you can only improve so much from watching. You got to go at some point. Thankfully for me, that came in the third year. But I am thankful for that time. It was tough. There were some tough Sunday afternoons driving home, tossing that game plan in the back of the truck, not using it. But I learned a lot. It made me appreciate the role of a backup, I can tell you that. So all the guys I've had since then, I really appreciate that role, because the time they spend, the hard work they put in, and then often they don't ever get in the game. But when they're called to get in the game, it's, hey, we need you to go win it and finish it. So it made me appreciate that role as well.
When I look at Phillip, it's fascinating. Alabama doesn't have a starting quarterback in the NFL. Ohio State doesn't. LSU doesn't. Texas doesn't. Florida doesn't. But there was a time a couple years ago, NC State had 4. Big Ben's from Miami of Ohio. Drew Brees, Purdue. Matt Ryan, Boston College. It is remarkable to me how many guys like you went to non-traditional powers in college, and virtually our league is all guys like you who weren't surrounded by NFL receivers and backs, and you didn't get maybe a scholarship from an Alabama. I have always contended that that's a big advantage for the Phillip Rivers and the Drew Brees, that little chip on the shoulder that, you didn't quite get the love in college. It was a little harder in college. I mean, that's kind of Patrick Mahomes. He ends up going to a non-traditional power. Jared Goff, non-traditional power. I think that's something. I think it's a real thing. Do you?
Maybe there is. Maybe there is something to it. I certainly wasn't wanted by everybody in the country, but at the same time, the NC State wanted me bad. Purdue probably wanted Drew bad. So you went to the place that truly wanted you, so there's some value in that. And I always dreamed about, gosh, I want to play Auburn so bad. I want to play Alabama. Can I get a chance to play Tennessee? Never getting to play those schools that you wanted to want you as a high school kid that didn't. So maybe there's a little bit to it, but I think it also just goes to show any high school kid out there, you get a chance to go play college football, you got a chance. I mean, we got guys on our roster, and as you see all over the NFL, that are from every conference, from Division II, the FBS. I mean, they're from everywhere. If you can play, they'll find you, and you can have a heck of a long career.
By the way, we're seeing more college concepts in the NFL. I see it with the Rams. I see it with Matt Nagy and the Bears. Are you guys bringing some college stuff? Are you comfortable with it? Do you like some of it?
I think there's an element to it. You've seen a lot more of the speed sweep stuff. A little more of the old RPO term gets brought out a little more than it probably ever thought it ever would in the NFL. But I still think at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you got to be able to convert third downs from the pocket. Yeah, I got to be able to line up on third and short and run power and run downhill lead. So I think those things are good, and they certainly allow you to spread the field. It gives you some easy completions, and I do think it's probably here to stay. But I do think what wins in the end are or the ability to convert third down, score in the red zone on a 3rd and goal from the 6. There's no trick 'em in that deal. You got to line up and execute. So I still think at the end of the day, that's what wins.
Okay, this weekend you'll play a home game against the Raiders, but Los Angeles, frankly, has always been a Raiders town more than a Rams town. And there's a chance you'll be at that game, and it'll feel like you're at a road game. That's a weird way for the next year or two for something for you to have to deal with. It doesn't feel like sometimes you have a true home game. Deep down, does it bother you? How do you, when you walk into that stadium and you see all the black and silver, does it bother you a little?
I think to answer you truthfully, deep down it does. Deep down it does a little bit. But I think had the experience of 65,000 Charger fans there over my career that I'm able to deal with it. It is what it is right now. For our young guys, I think maybe it's a little getting used to, even last week. Derwin James comes in here from Florida State, and trots out there and is like, wait a minute, I'm used to 75,000 fans at home games at Florida State. So I think for the young guys, it's not what maybe they expected. I think for the guys that were here last year, they experienced it a little bit. We know how to handle it. And I also still think it comes down to continuing to find a way to win football games. Last year, late in the year, the environment started to change a little bit. And you mentioned, the Raiders and Niners, and some games are going to be that way. But I think if we can get on a roll here, and we got a chance against a division opponent to win our second one in a row and hopefully get on a little bit of a roll, I think late in December over at the StubHub, it'll be all right.
Finally, Philip, I said before I consider you a Hall of Famer and Carson Palmer a Hall of Famer, but a lot of times with Hall of Fame votes, they look at championships. Is it a fair question to ask, do you believe that you need, deep down, a Super Bowl or an AFC championship to validate to some people your career?
Well, I leave that to the people that like to hash those things out. I know the name of this game is winning. I know that's always been my goal. Our team's goal is to get to the top of the mountain, and we haven't done that yet. So I know that comes with the position. Quarterback and head coach are the only two that have their record tied to it. But I've never looked at it as I'm going to win a championship. It's about us and about us trying to get there, and we haven't done it yet. And so obviously that's the ultimate goal. When that other discussion takes place, will that be the determining factor? I don't know. I think that's the long debate that you never can decide. I think I may have even told you this. Looking back, Tom Brady, who I think is arguably maybe the best ever, one of for sure, that game against the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, they have that interception to win. And immediately after that interception, everybody said, Tom Brady is now the greatest quarterback of all time. Whereas I would have contested, well, what if Seattle would have scored? Tom Brady just played the same game. He's the same player. He wasn't even on the field. And so I think those arguments are they can go on forever. But I don't play for that reason. I'm thankful to have had a successful career. But I play for these guys and this team and this organization, and we want like crazy to stand up there with a trophy one day. We haven't done it yet, but we're going to keep plugging away.
You are an amazing dad to several kids. You're an amazing guy. But every time I ask players, I say, who's the big trash talker in the NFL? They're like, oh, God, Philip Rivers. He's just chatting over there. He's talking trash like crazy. I'm like, Philip Rivers? He's such a nice guy. And they're like, yeah, he can be a nice guy. He's a trash talker. So you have a reputation as the league quarterback who trash talks. Are you proud of that? Do you take pride in that?
Well, I think what I can say I'm proud of is you could have me mic'd up and get 45 minutes of footage, and there's nothing you got to beep out, and then there's nothing that I couldn't show any of my children, So I think that part I'm proud of. And I think more than anything, it just catches people off guard, the fact that there's a quarterback that interacts with you. Most guys don't. I don't interact with them as much as I used to. I've kind of tempered that a little bit. But I just like to have fun. I play as if I was in the backyard with a bunch of my buddies in the ninth grade, and that's the way you play. You just happen to be on TV in front of a bunch of cameras, and people seem to catch more and more clips of it. But I just enjoy playing. It's been a dream of mine to play this game and play in the highest level in the NFL. I had posters of Elway, Marino, and Montana, and Aikman, and Favre, and Manning on my wall as a young boy. I got to play against some of those guys, and I'm getting to do it here at 36 years old. So I'm thankful every time to trot out there and play a little ball as a grown man.
Well, yeah, I know you said you don't want want to play to 45, but don't give it up too soon. Pleasure to watch. 11 TDs, 2 picks. Heck of a player. Is going to be a Hall of Famer. Phillip, 15 years, 7 of them a Pro Bowler. 11 TDs, 2 picks again this year. Congrats on your success, and good luck against the Raiders.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Yeah, the players are so funny. They're like, oh, man, he's just talking trash. You know, Larry Bird was known as the all-time. Larry Bird was the all-time trash talker in NBA history. And then you'll meet other guys. LeBron's not a big trash talker. He's not a big trash talker. Some guys are, some guys aren't. Gary Payton. Remember Gary Payton, the glove? Legendary trash talker. Phillip Rivers, he's got a little chatter to him.
I like it. I wish that more quarterbacks were like that. Because, they have the, especially now. Well, actually, now it might not be such a good idea since they're completely protected. So it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to hear from you right now.
Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Hert on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
All right, so the disconnect between Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown continued Sunday against the Ravens. Antonio Brown was held to 5 catches for 62 yards on 11 targets. And the Steelers were held scoreless after halftime. But Mike Tomlin remains confident that the duo will figure it out.
We missed some opportunities in that game, no doubt, particularly on possession downs. But I've seen that tandem a lot over the years. They'll smooth it out. They'll find their rhythm. We'll spend a lot of time in the offseason working to minimize tandems such as Ben and AB. And usually over the course of the journey, the cream rises and they'll show what they're capable of. They've done it for a long time. I anticipate that happening while we continue to work to infuse some of our new targets into the mix. They'll find their rhythm. They'll be the formidable tandem that they always are.
Yeah, don't worry about those two.
Right. Of all the things that the Steelers are having issues with, Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger are not the thing to be concerned about. And look, the Ravens defense is good. It's like you said, there are people game planning to stop, Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger from being successful.
Yes.
So it's not unheard of that they would have a bad game. But it's just with everything that's happening with the Steelers.
There's a lot of noise around them. It's like Seattle the last 2 years. There's just a lot of noise around Seattle. And generally in football, noise is not a great thing. NBA is a little different. You can have noise around a basketball team. The Warriors have noise all the time. They're talking, they're battling, they're doing politics. Basketball's different. But NFL's noise isn't great, and they're a noisy franchise right now. Last year, the Cowboys were a noisy franchise, and they had problems.
Well, you can be noisy as long as you're winning. But when you're noisy and you're not winning, then it becomes a problem. Because everything is amplified when you're losing. So, speaking of the Cowboys, we're in Week 5, and Des Bryant still isn't on an NFL roster.
Yeah.
So we saw him visit the Browns in Hard Knocks, but we really haven't heard much from him since then. Well, he revealed on social media yesterday his preferred destination. He tweeted he wants to re-sign with Dallas, but if not, he'll be ready to play somewhere else. So, of course, everyone is freaking out.
When you get dumped, you always want him back, right? That's the psychology of being dumped. Like when you get dumped by even if somebody that even if you were in a relationship and you were tired of them, what do they say about Facebook? Like people go back and they have memories of relationships in high school and college.
Well, you romanticize relationships and situations. And you do that with a lot of things. You do this with old jobs, obviously. Like you have an old car. Oh, I love that old car. Meanwhile, when you had that car, it
drove you crazy.
Something coming out of the seats, and it took 35 minutes to heat up before you could start it.
Yes.
But this is the workout video he posted yesterday. I get him wanting to be back with Dallas because I don't think he ever wanted to leave Dallas. I don't think he ever thought he was going to leave Dallas based off of his relationship with Jerry Jones.
Listen, when you get dumped in anything, by a job, by a person, by a team, that never leaves you. You can tell everybody it doesn't leave you. It never, ever leaves you. By the way, Westbrook will always have that little thing with Kevin Durant. It's going to be with Russell Westbrook. He can say it doesn't matter. It matters.
Could you see the Cowboys re-signing him?
No. I don't. I think that ship has sailed and they're done with it, and and there probably would be some, you could always go back to he learned his lesson, but I think when he was in the room, he was toxic, and that's why they got rid of him.
I don't know about the learning a lesson thing, because he's still talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah,
and especially after all the things he said about the Cowboys staff, there's no way he's going back there. Finally, LeBron made his Staples Center debut last night as a member of the Lakers. That minimally interesting team, the Lakers.
Yeah, marginally fascinating.
The crowd finally got its first major LeBron highlight with that dunk in the first quarter. And
it was sold out. And L.A. is not like an attendance city. Nobody here cares about that. It was sold out.
for preseason games.
Yeah, but there was baseball playoffs on. You got the Dodgers in the playoffs. They got Cubs going on. Got NFL, Rams. You got LA's got beaches. A lot of sold out. I've never even watched an NBA preseason game until last night. Never watched one in my life. Never watched one.
I'm sure I've watched preseason games, but I mean it's NBA
Look
preseason.
at that place. Look at that. LA's not into attendance. We don't feel like prouder of ourselves because we go to games here. It was like an NBA real game.
Well, they lost 113-111.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
My wife asked me, she goes, hey, who won that game? And I said, I don't know. I just watched when LeBron played, then I turned it on.
I mean, it doesn't. It's NBA preseason. It doesn't matter. But LeBron did have this to say about his debut.
It's a new beginning. It's a new start. It's a new excitement for myself. So it'll be fun.
I do think that LeBron is excited about being with the Lakers, and especially because even though the team is young and then there's a lot of pieces that have to come together and stuff, it doesn't have the feeling that it had in Cleveland, where it's like it's your responsibility to make this team great, and it's your responsibility to bring this franchise like to glory for the first time, really, because the Lakers have such a historic place in NBA history that there's really, especially this year, there's just not a lot of pressure. But look, the place is sold out. People just want to see what's interesting. They just want to see LeBron and the new Lakers. We got to come up with a nickname for them besides the meme team, the meme dream team.
Is that what they're calling them? The meme dream team?
Yeah, I think so.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
I was saying yesterday, being patient in life is hard. And I have two things in about 45 minutes that are shocking to me, and I almost can't be patient enough not to tell you one before next hour. That's how much I'm struggling. I don't get shocked much in sports. I watch sports, obviously, O.J. Simpson's in a Bronco on the freeway running from police. I was shocked with that. There are things occasionally in sports I'm like, well, I didn't see that one coming. Yeah, Agassi wrote in his book, I did meth. I'm not going to lie to you. Kind of surprised me. In his prime. Where's Andre? He's doing meth. All right, I didn't see that one coming. But generally, sports doesn't offer – there's not a lot that surprises me. A couple of things surprising me today, and I'll get to that. Coming up next, I know sometimes you think, Colin, you pick on this guy. Colin, you give that guy favoritism. I try to be honest. And honestly, it appears Aaron Rodgers is struggling once again in a relationship with somebody in football. And why would I be shocked? That's coming up. All right, guys, close your eyes. Imagine yourself tailgating in a football game wearing your current underwear. Would you be proud of your choice if everybody in the stadium saw it? Of course you wouldn't. You would if you were wearing Tommy John, the revolutionary clothing brand that's redefining comfort for men and women. By the way, I'm wearing it right now. Every little detail, every stitch. It's men's and women's underwear, no wedgie guarantee, stay-put waistbands, range of fabrics. It's feather light. Okay, I've washed this stuff 1,000 times. It never shrinks. The fabric doesn't shrink. Moisture wicking, breathable. I sleep in it every night, and I wear it, a different version, every day. They have new life-changing women's underwear, now fully back in stock. Don't spend another dime on cheap, heat-trapping, multi-pack underwear. Go to TommyJohn.com, code HERD. TommyJohn.com, code HERD for 20% off. TommyJohn.com, code HERD.